The following program deals with the paranormal. Viewer discretion is advised. Tonight's episode focuses on the experiences, evidence, and messages collected during last Sunday's live broadcast from the Richardson House, also known as the farmhouse on Round Top Road, but most notoriously known as the Conjuring House. Our guests this evening will be recounting their experiences of the supernatural which they endured during last Sunday's group visit and ghost investigation there. The host, George Lopez, and the show's producer, Bill Forte, along with the viewers, have not seen or heard these testimonials and collection of evidence before this airing. Ken DaCosta, our other show host, has. Why? Because he was at the farm. Again. Today, our full-spectrum management staff and ownership wish to apologize for the statements read at the opening of last week's show regarding the absence and non-involvement of seasoned investigator and podcast star George Lopez at the Conjuring House again. I mean, come on. It's not like George Lopez would have to fly from Paris or something. I'm not even going to ask that someone outright purchases a plane ticket for George Lopez. If all you people watching would just click the damn subscribe button, we could finally monetize this channel and George could book the flight himself. Please enjoy the show.
Here we are.
All right, let's get this over. House of Dragon starts in an hour.
Yeah, okay.
You
Good.
guys,
Let's get a roll.
It's all streaming service now. You don't have to, remember the old days of HBO, Ken? You'd sit in front of the TV at 9 p.m., and then they would play the show, and then you couldn't watch it again until, like Wednesday they replayed it or something. So
yeah, no, I remember the days of AOL where it would sing you a song before you were able to log on.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, everybody. There's an audience out there.
Yeah, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Dead Air Live on the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. It is a pleasure to have you guys join us tonight. We are simulcasting with KGRADB.com, KGRA on YouTube, and on Facebook. My name is George Lopez. With me as always, well, not as always. He takes trips and he goes places, Mr. Ken DaCosta. And returning from, again, another trip, another visit to the Conjuring House last Sunday. If you guys have been here with us, and thank you, welcome back if you were. Love the intensity of last Sunday, Ken. I know Bill loved being involved and seeing some of the things he couldn't even explain during the show. And yourself and some fantastic guests who are going to be joining us this evening are going to be bringing some of the testimonials and evidence from last week. Is that correct?
Correct. We have quite a bit to show you tonight because we were able to run our stationary cameras and, of course, you, the audience. And just let me preface my comments by saying thank you so much for your involvement in this thing last week. It was difficult to see and hear your comments. We popped on once in a while. But in looking back at it right now, the investment everybody had in this was just phenomenal. So I thank you for tuning in. It's something a little different we decided to do. We're out in the wilds of Harrisville, so sometimes our Wi-Fi, failed us a little bit, even with a hotspot. But we have now one under our belt in the technology to tell you can expect more of these things from different locations we're going to visit once in a while. But what you're going to see tonight is a lot that happened on things like FLIR cameras and handheld cameras that you maybe weren't able to see as we were going about the house. We did the best we could to go live on our cell phones to bring you into sessions. But tonight we're going to have a plethora of guests all were present that night, and they're going to talk a little bit about what they experienced and, more importantly, answer your questions about this.
And our show producer, Mr. Bill Forte, who sat in as co-host yesterday, Ken, while you were on location, has joined us. And Bill, your take on that event.
First of all, as I mentioned before we started the show, I am telling you, I seen some shadow behind that sofa. But thanks to Julie, she's going to check that footage to see if there was anything captured. That's first. Second, Satori's phone in the basement twice, turning on by itself. I was like, whoa. And at the same time, then Cody is outside, sees a light, hears all kinds of noises. I'm like, I need to go to this place. I really need to experience this place because there was so much things going on. And I got to say, the cap of all the night was at the end with Cody and Satori. I'm telling you, it was the chills. I couldn't believe it. And I hope to see that experience in person because that is absolutely amazing.
Oh, I'm sure you will, Bill. I'm sure you'll be able to go there.
So, yes, I'm looking forward to what you guys are going to bring to the table tonight. And again, I want to thank everybody that participated last week. And, of course, the owner, Jacqueline, and you, Ken, being there, representing Dead Air.
Of course. I've been there a lot. Did I mention that? Yeah, no.
So, but
I go there a lot.
George, Ken, I look forward to seeing you there in October.
Yeah, we got a big. Jacqueline's planning a big Halloween event, and if she joins us tonight, she can tell you a little bit more about that. But it's a kind of a community outreach thing that she's doing, and hopefully we will, all of us together, somehow make this happen and bring another live event.
At least us two on the screen, right?
Yeah, I'll be there.
You know what?
All
right, George is gone.
Anyway, have a great show. George, we'll see you in October at the farmhouse. Have a great show, guys.
Thank you, Bill, as always.
All right, Bill, thank you.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, the reminder bell for upcoming content, and most importantly, that thumbs up. I joked at the opening with that disclaimer, but seriously, yours hitting that subscribe button is so critically important for us and to us. So thanks, guys, for all your support. Really greatly appreciate it. But Ken, without further ado, we've got some witnesses, people who were actually there with you during this incredible evening last Sunday night, and some familiar faces. Why don't you go ahead and introduce them for us?
Yeah, some of these people, no introduction or very little, but the first person I want to bring on is our camera person extraordinaire, and she's responsible for so much of the technical setups and the camera work that you see. And she is a longtime member of Rise Up and my best friend in the paranormal, Julie DeMay. Let's bring Julie on.
We're double tapping here. There we go. By the way,
there's Julie. And Julie and I are probably going to do a lot of the intros of these videos because some of them were done with her handheld camera and others on the stationary. But we've been reviewing these things, kind of splitting the baby here a little bit. I'm doing a little bit. She's doing a little bit. But a lot of what you're going to see, she put together tonight. So kudos for her. Our second guest, we're going to bring in somewhere in the darkness are Cody and Satori in the front seat of the car.
No, wait a minute. I'm convinced now that these two are on the run from the law. They're on the lam because every time we see them, they're in the car. They're on the move.
Sorry, they're in the front seat. Everything is fine.
Yeah, no comments here.
Nope.
Everything is fine. And finally, last but certainly not least.
Well, we didn't introduce them. I cut you off. Who are these two people?
Just a couple of all-American kids with just an extraordinary ability to tap into stuff.
Yeah. Who's the third person in the back seat there? Okay, just check it.
And finally tonight, a woman that needs no introduction. So we're just going to bring her on because you've known her by her real name, Andrea Perrin.
Hello.
Hey, Annie.
That's better. That's better. Hello.
So good to see all of you.
Yeah, how's that farmhouse? How's that
Nice to be
farmhouse working
seen.
out for you?
It's phenomenal. It's
Yeah,
in
Is it? Yeah.
tender, loving care, the hands of Jacqueline Nunez, who totally gets it, who has great plans for the place. I will do everything in my power to help her. It's such a pleasure and an honor and a privilege for me to be able to go back there and to have, what happened there last Sunday night, or Sunday, started in day and went all into the night, was extraordinary. It was phenomenal in every sense of the word. And I'm just so grateful to be able to be included, to be a part of that. Hi, Gabby.
Well, the cool part about tonight is that neither you nor George, Cody Satori, and will probably be joined a little later by Tim Weisberg, who's got so many irons in the fire. Yes. And we've also extended an invitation to Jacqueline Nunez tonight. And maybe she'll join us as we see people in the green room. We'll bring them on. But a lot of what's going to be seen tonight, you folks have not seen it. Now, there'll be some clips from the show that we'll play, but a lot of this stuff was done by handheld cameras. And all of you, Julie and I will introduce these things, but this is awesome because you're going to be right with our viewers tonight because they haven't seen these things either. A couple of the clips we may have played that night during our introduction. There's one in particular that has an amazing backstory to it because it was found by one of our guests that night, totally overlooked by us, which is why it's always great to have another pair of eyes on things. So I really want to bring George in here right now because I want to get this off because there are a lot of clips to be played tonight. So, like I said, Julie and I will kind of introduce these things, and I'm going to let George handle the chat comments. I'm going to go into the studio now with some of these things. Now, the first thing I want to play was an amazing clip that we were playing during our introduction where we had the guests there, and we did a little presentation. A lot of them met Annie for the first time. And she gave them some background on the house and took them through. And so we just prepped everybody and made it sort of like, fleshed out that it wasn't just an investigation, but it was a visit. On this first clip I want to play, Julie is by herself downstairs. She's asking some questions and then records a ruckus going on in the kitchen. And we were so focused on this noise and the ruckus in the kitchen that we missed a voice. And it was incredible. And one of our guests that night said, "Wait, I hear something after Julie talks." I said, "Okay, let's play it back." Annie, you were outside at the time, but the collective gasps from everybody in the house, I mean, people were running in like, what the hell just happened? It's like, and then we played it again, but it was palpable. People were just screaming and yelling when they heard this. So I don't mind playing this a couple of times, but Julie, you want to add anything to this before I put it up there?
This particular clip was actually caught in July. The house was very quiet. We had a few people from a Go event there, but I was isolated on the first floor. I was basically in a wheelchair and a cast. So I got to investigate all by myself, and sometimes that's okay. So I'm sort of being quiet, not to bother Ken upstairs or Cody and Satori downstairs. And I just really quietly asked questions while I was by myself in the seance room, and I recorded this clip, sent it to Ken, and when he played this with the guest, I'm like, oh my God, me and Ken both missed this. And I'm like, this guest, I don't know what she's talking about, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Kristen Harris, thank you. Shout out to her. So without further ado, and some of these are captioned, so it helps you a little bit, something we typically don't do, but in the interests of doing a show with them. So here you go, number one.
Is there anything you can do to get my attention? What's that? Is there somebody walking around over here? I thought I heard something. Are you in the kitchen?
Okay, that disappears fast, so I just not going to make a habit of this, but I just want to play it again. After Julie, you'll hear a deep female voice say, "Look this way."
Yeah, Ken,
And
let's
then immediately the
let's
noise
bring
stops.
Tim Weisberg has joined us also, so
Yeah,
let's
let's
bring him
bring
on
Tim
screen
in.
for us. Hello, Mr. Weisberg.
Hello, everybody. How are you tonight?
Hello, Tim.
He's got the best friggin' microphone in the business.
Yeah, I know,
swear to
the
God.
professional microphone.
Yeah.
Just an SM58. You can get one at any music shop.
Oh, good. This is plug. Sponsor us. Wherever you are.
If I can find a music shop, sure. I paid full price.
Tim, you're jumping in with both feet here. I'm just replaying a clip. So once again, deep female voice says, "Look this way," before the racket happens. So a lot of this, some of you haven't heard before. So just to give you an idea of what to listen to. So here we go again. One more time.
Is there anything you can do to get my attention? What's that? Is there somebody walking around over here? I thought I heard something. Are you in the kitchen?
Man,
Okay.
if there was, if it looked this way, and if Julie turned and there was an apparition right there, holy God.
Would have been the best. So
Yeah,
before
yes.
you guys are welcome to comment on this, we're going to step out of the way. But again, Kristen Harris, good ears. Always good to get another pair of ears and eyes on things, and this is the kind of thing that happens. So,
Yeah, no, I definitely think that is that's always great because otherwise, if we didn't play this at a public event, we may have never seen or heard that. So it's always good to get other points of view that aren't involved with our team because it's very pure that way. And for that to come out and for her to recognize that. Is just incredible in my opinion.
I have never heard that before, but I know that voice. I know that voice from some place way back in my mind, way back 50 plus years ago. I know that voice, and she was the spirit in the house that would watch over us and that would keep the darker forces at bay. And she was very kind. And, I've always talked at length about, yes, we had a problematic spirit, at least one, maybe two, but we also had benevolent spirits in the house. And I'm sure if my sisters, Nancy or Cindy, heard that voice like I just did, they would say, yes, it was her. It was her.
Oh, that's amazing. Especially when you have an opportunity to play that back and there's some kind of recognition.
It was a very calming voice.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I didn't notice it till they played it, and I'm like, it just, nothing to scare me, but look this way, and then there's a bang in the kitchen, and you see my hand go in front of the camera, and I'll do that to mark the video. So she was just saying, I'm going to make a noise, look this way. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. completely lost in the sauce on that because we were just like amazed that there was noises in the kitchen. Nothing else. Typical type of thing that you tap into sometime. Julie, this was up in that crawl space upstairs, and where the blackboard is.
Yes.
Yeah, that crawl space that everybody goes into that with a male voice who is asked to do something and and kind of responds like, yeah, oh, really? So once again, this is on handheld. So let's take you to that crawl space upstairs.
If you want us to stay up there, you have to do something for us.
Yes, really. You have to do something. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. A little bit. Really? Just kind of like leave. So you guys can jump on this because, I don't want to run to. Yeah, we've got about 20 of these things.
I love it.
You're in no hurry tonight.
I love it. I love seeing stuff. So that would have been the birthing room, correct?
Correct.
That's the bourning room. Yes.
Bourning. Beautiful.
That's what Mr. Kenyon called it, the bourning room.
Wow. Yeah, that
One
was
of the things that I wanted to get on real quick, and I wanted to turn to Tim on this because he is the only one on the panel tonight who is making his first visit to the place. So we've all had our impressions of it aesthetically and paranormally. So I want to ask you, Tim, on your first visit, give us your impressions of the house in that regard. As far as was it what you were expecting? Obviously, it's nothing we paid for the movie, which was filmed down in North Carolina. But what did you think of the place?
Really, it was completely different than I was expecting. I had heard so many things about it, and you know how it goes. When you hear so many things ahead of time, it kind of gets into your mind a little bit. I tried to clear all of that out and go into this with a completely blank slate. And what I found it to be was a very, certainly interesting, but also a very warm and inviting place. And I don't know how much of that was because Andrea was there. And so obviously there's that familial connection. I don't know how much of it is because of the great work that Rise Up has done there and all of the visits that you all have made there. But I just felt like this was a place where really kind of maybe for the first time in my paranormal adventures that I felt like this was a place where there could be ongoing study of what goes on here and that it is willing to help along with that. The paranormal is there to work with you rather than, against you or even just alongside you in that regard.
Yeah. And it was
I really think that we need to credit Jacqueline with not just opening the house to us the way that she did, but she's just such a warm and welcoming presence there. And she's a deeply, deeply spiritual woman. And for her, and for me as well, Tim, you particularly know this as well as Ken and George. It's not about the darkness for me. It's about the light and what we can learn. I'm so grateful that the spirits are willing to communicate with us to teach all of us that they are there, that they've always been there. The compilation of evidence that Rise Up has accrued, and then with the introduction of Cody and Satori doing their remarkable work, has opened new doors. But first and foremost, it was Jacqueline that opened the door to all of us. And for that, I am eternally grateful.
Well, we're going to get in depth a little bit about approaches to this particular house. This week about those. And
Ken, we're going to need you to adjust your microphone. For whatever reason, you are cutting out pretty darn bad.
How's this?
Much better.
Yeah, now we can hear you. Please continue.
Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit about methods and approaches. a little bit later on, something George and I were talking about. And via Cody and Satori, we got insight into the spirits who inhabit that house as far as how they feel about it. Before I move on to the next clip, I just want to tell Cody and Satori that it looks like the Bohemian Rhapsody video with you guys sitting there. Scaramouche, Scaramouche. Yeah, exactly.
Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me.
Galileo. This was the only quiet place.
The next clip. Go ahead. It's like right.
I was just saying,
see
the only quiet place, so we had to make
but
it work.
if you go, oh, no, no. Mamma mia, mamma mia.
Cody, your car is now going to be known as the Mirth Mobile.
Excellent. Okay, so the next clip I want to go into is something that Jules sent me that I immediately dismissed as nothing. But then there was something that made me keep going back to this. And what you're going to see essentially is a light in another room. It's pretty bright. And I decided that, well, that's a flashlight. But there was something gnawing at me about it because we were there that night and it didn't make a lot of sense. And this is coming from the room where the boiling room, where the chalkboard is. So I decided to check with our investigators, and they said, no, there was nobody in that room. We were all behind the camera. It just happened to be pointing down there. And that night I showed this and I brought it up. And one of the guests is Jason Webster, who is constant viewer and supporter of the show. And behind me, he said, I was there that night. Nobody was in the room. I was in that particular room during that session. So I'm going to play this for you. And this is really unusual. It's like kind of one of those, when it's too good to be true, it usually is. But there was something that just drew me back to it that didn't make sense. So in watching this, I'm watching this light, and it didn't illuminate the floor or the Raggedy Ann doll or reflect off the glass pane windows of the door that was right next to it. So I'm just going to throw this out there. And listen, any of this stuff can be subjective to you. Okay, we don't rest on our laurels and just say, well, that's that. But I want you to take a look at this, bearing in mind, just to the right, you'll see the doll sitting in the chair. You'll see a comforter on a bed. And I just don't see this reflecting off anything. So tell me what you think.
I looked out the window and looked out the other window, and there was a flash of light, like in the tree line. Oh, yeah? But real low. It's super low. Cars, maybe? Could it be?
Could be. I don't know.
Here? Like through that one?
Yeah, the Heinzman's.
It wouldn't be a lightning bug?
No. This looked like a plane that was coming like up like this.
Wow.
Anything like that look familiar?
Not on our end. It did look a lot like a lightning bug, which was interesting to me. But it was very, very bright, and I don't know.
Yeah, again, the thing that puzzled me after I said, okay, maybe there's something there, I didn't even look at it anymore. I started looking at the glass panes. I started looking at the floor. I started looking at the Raggedy Ann doll, the bedclothes. Just looking for that glimmer of any kind of flashlight or cell phone that would light something else up. And I just don't see it. Tim, you're pretty objective when it comes to these things. What are you seeing there?
It looked to me, it reminded me of something that happened to me in the Oliver House basement, where suddenly in the basement, pitch dark, there was this like 3-foot bar of light that just appeared out of nowhere, moved a couple of feet to one direction, and then disappeared. It seemed like it had pretty good size. The light there in that room seemed like it had pretty good size to it, in addition to being so bright.
Annie, anything that you've witnessed in that house before or something similar to it?
Yes. There are numerous activities that occur in that house, but a lot of times it would just be a light moving through the room, That one seemed to have it was not oh, isn't that wonderful? They are. You're absolutely right. American Road Warrior Eric Hartwig. We need to know him. We need to follow up with him, Ken. You make that happen. So anyway, there were many times that I saw lights moving through the house. I always, from after I was 13 and I had had my first close encounter with the galactic family, I had a tendency to think that it was them making their presence known in the house. But I don't know. And I can't tell you one way or the other if it was spirit, if it was extraterrestrial in nature. All I know is it was there, and it was not caused by one of our gizmos or gadgets. It did not appear as the light that we use, from whether it be a cell phone or a flashlight. It had almost a kind of a form and substance to it that light generally does not have. It was encased rather than dispersing. And yes, that's very familiar to me. There were many nights I woke up and there was a light like that just floating around my room. I would just, at a certain point, I would just roll over and go back to sleep. It was not something that I could control. It was just there. And yeah, that was very familiar to me. Didn't even send a shiver up my spine, but I can tell you for a fact that that was not somebody playing tricks on you, sitting in the corner of the middle bedroom, trying to shine a light on anything or something in particular. It was paranormal in nature.
I'd have to say a few more things here that you're not aware of. I initially captured that because of what the person was saying. Before the light illuminated within the room, she was discussing about a light she had just seen in the backyard. And what's even more interesting, I sync up all the timestamps on my cameras. I was in isolation on the first floor during this, shooting towards the library, and caught a light in the window at the same time.
Yes, you showed that to me. I remember that.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was outside. Chances are really good it was outside and it just decided to come inside.
All right, this is strange. So, Satori and myself probably investigated the house a couple dozen times now, and I would say maybe 4 out of the 4 investigations, 4 visits out of all the times we've been there. There has been some prominent light, anomalies that we've witnessed with our eyes.
You just reminded me of a couple when we were looking at it.
Yeah, and a couple of them were in the basement. And like Andrew was saying, I remember one clear instance that we were standing by, where you go down the stairs looking towards where the coal is. So probably about 20 feet away, we saw a very condensed light appear in that area that kind of had a greenish hue to it. And then it just disappeared. We all saw that. Then there was another night we were all downstairs where there was a light that lit up the entire basement at one time.
On location with a Blair Witch
that lit up the whole basement, which was very dispersed, and that was like the blue LED tint to it,
right?
And that illuminated the entire basement. And then outside, we've seen plenty of lights outside. I saw one of them the night of the live stream that we did, which I couldn't explain. So there's definitely a lot of strange light anomalies that happen there that people witness, rise, and they capture on camera. Apparently,
well,
Julie
this is
Griffin
one of those
got
things
a whole
where
series in the cellar too, and the last one that came through had blue, green, red, and it looked like a hand reaching in to touch her. And she made prints of those and put those out for everybody to see at the Ocean State Paracon. They were amazing.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, this is the low-hanging fruit when you see a light in a place that you really don't expect it. Something floating through the trees or, dust illuminated by infrared. we've seen those ad nauseum a million times, but I kept coming back to this one because of the lack of reflection, the lack of illumination. And then when Jason confirmed that, yeah, I was in that room, that was my group, and there was nobody in there. There were however many people. They were essentially sitting behind the camera, so they were looking in that direction, and I really don't see anybody say, maybe they weren't looking in the same direction the camera was pointed, but I didn't hear them comment on it at all. So that goes in the archives. Julie, I want to turn to you on this one because you sent me something where you labeled it "I'm jealous," and I didn't know what you were getting at, really.
This
why don't you tell them about this? Because this one's pretty cool too.
This is interesting. Again, I don't remember which camera this was on, if it was the seance room or upstairs, but I'm listening to hours of video and I hear, it sounds like a child. Someone's talking and you hear a child say, "I'm jealous." Definitely sounds like a child. There were no children at the investigation. It sort of stood out. And I don't remember the beginning of the clip. I had a lot of clips I had to send to Ken.
There is before that happened, I also heard a hello. Child says hello, and then there's a gap. It's about a half a minute long. So I'm going to let everybody listen to this and tell me what you think.
You used to have tours of this all the time too. That's probably more fun.
Really well, they live there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
that's why they're
So the furniture in here, there's nothing in here that was anything in here that was with the parents, or
don't know. I don't think so.
Original stuff.
I think they're moving to
I was wondering what the books too.
I don't know, jealous of what, and obviously that was in the same room, maybe a different session, but as the light anomaly. So I don't know. It's one of those kind of random things. Jealous of what? I'm not sure what the reference is at all in terms of what was happening there, but I'll take anybody weighing in on this and thoughts on that. Jealous of what, perhaps?
That's a good question, and one we may never know the answer to. Personally, I think that the hello at the beginning was, something that definitely stood out to me. It had that typical, EVP, style sound to it,
right?
And it just sounded really, really, a voice that we've definitely heard before.
We would have to listen back to the entire conversation to see if maybe there is something, a conversation that somebody mentioned. Let me say that again. Something somebody mentioned that maybe caught their attention and they really wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah. Tim, when you go into these places, because you've been to a lot of these things, when you go into these places and you get these sort of random recordings and they don't seem as though they follow along with the conversation, or maybe you just don't know what the reference is, like how much of that can just be residual voices that just fall into a thing, like all of a sudden you hear the word spaghetti or something like that, it's in low frequency and it doesn't really make sense, it doesn't fit the context and everything like that. But should we just automatically be dismissive of those things, or is there something that it has value of it, whether or not it follows along with the context of the question or the conversation?
Ken, that question alone shows how much we have changed in paranormal investigation in the past decade or so. Because 10 years ago, you would never say, should we just not worry about that? Like, we just caught spirit communication.
Right.
So no matter what they're saying, it's still a pretty profound thing to have happen. And the danger, of course, is coming up with your own narrative, trying to find a way to piece it in, because you're right. Sometimes you are just picking up bits and pieces of other conversations. It doesn't even have to necessarily mean that it's a ghost that's putting that out, a spirit that's putting that out. It could just be the leftover voice in the air of some long forgotten dinner. Well, what are we having tonight? Spaghetti. And somehow spaghetti is just reverberating through the dimensions. So I don't think we should ever, dismiss it. But I think we have to be careful about where we try to place it in the narrative of the investigation. It's a cool thing to have, and it's definitely something you want to hang on to and play for other people. But I wouldn't necessarily build the remainder of the investigation around it.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Because I know the steps we go through, and Cody knows about this, and Julie knows about this, in terms of how we determine these things. And this is why there are so many cameras all over the place, because we don't want to think that I'm jealous is just a compressed sound of somebody bumping into a chair in the next room, because that can happen sometimes. And we hear what we want to hear, but just because it doesn't fit the context, or, maybe it does fit the context. Maybe there's a little envy here. Somebody is having a snack in the room, or they're moving around, or they're able to speak and communicate with other people. And maybe that's not so much jealousy, but maybe there's envy. I wish I could do that kind of thing again. But then again, we want to stop ourselves at projecting these things and just take it for the value for what it's worth. This is a recording, and it's just like really quickly, but there is a group in the basement, and this is the typical breathy sigh type of thing. And the only thing significant about this, I guess, Julie, is proximity to the camera, when in this particular case, the camera's on a tripod at the very far end of the basement, shooting down. And some people are in a room, and it just doesn't seem like this sigh or whatever it is supposed to be there.
Agree. This is the far end of the basement, and you were with Jacqueline and a few other people at the other end. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, oh my God, what a horrible video to watch, because there's nothing going on. And then this heavy sign next to the camera. I'm like, where did this come from?
Yeah. And when we analyze these things, we can tell where they come from, because we triangulate recorders and things like that. So this is like pretty typical of the kind of thing that people picked up. And we did on this particular night too. So here it is.
Did you work for the canyons?
So, nothing profound there. It's just sort of like a sigh. And sometimes we think those things are kind of funny, because we're the same way too. And people ask the same questions over and over again. So, hey, listen, if we're the same way on the other side, or when somebody asks about spaghetti and then somebody in the afterlife is just, what? Next one, Julie. Now, you were up with Dana and Karen Willie up in the boarding room again, and there was some talk outside the door. You had it closed and circulating there. Again, a very short clip, but in this one, you'll hear the voice and Dana's reaction to it. Part of a longer clip. You guys were in there for about an hour, but was there anything you want to add to this, or the clip I'm speaking of, right?
Is this the clip that we have on the FLIR as well?
Yeah, what he says is, Dana suddenly hears it and says, somebody is out there. That's his reaction to it. So I'll play it, and let me know what you think. Somebody's out there. Okay, now it's one of those things where we're going to ask you to put a little bit of trust in us. We wouldn't waste our time or your time if there were literally a group outside the door. You know what I mean? We don't have to go that far. So we're pretty sure in these things, just like the light thing, where we ask people, we talk to people, we check with people. And not that memories are infallible, but I think we're pretty certain at that particular time, there were two ladies in there who had moved on to the basement. They were very anxious to go to the basement that night, so they did. And you guys were in there for an hour and completely outlasted anybody else on that floor.
Well, my question is, before the voice, it sounds like an owl came into the room. What is that? that was the odd noise was before the voice. There's two different things going on there. So what's the, I don't know, it sounds like an animal. There is no attic. There is no trees. There's no critters running around.
Could you play that again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Somebody's out there.
Did you hear what you needed to hear?
Yes.
Okay, so what do you think?
I don't know.
Annie, what is
I would tell you if I did. I swear to you, I would tell you if I did. But I mean, welcome to my childhood. I lived like that 24/7, 365 for a decade. You know, it was like, wow. You know, voices, lights, motion, disruption. You know, it sounding like bodies were hitting the floor on the, you know, ceiling above you. You know, I don't know. I don't know. It was a bizarre and wondrous and sometimes very spooky way to grow up, because we just literally never knew who was going to speak next, who was coming through next, what kind of phenomenon would occur next. You know, if we had periods of dormancy and we think it's all over, then suddenly we get smacked upside the head with a baseball bat, you know, not literally, but figuratively, with, you know, some very bombastic, combustible kind of activity where things were literally flying across the room, hitting the wall, but they never broke. You know, it was a series of events that in many ways, a lot of them were very different. And yet there were like types of haunting, I guess. It was almost as if whoever was trying to get our attention had just so much energy to work with. And then they would do whatever that energy allowed. And so sometimes it was a very big deal, and sometimes it was like, oh, okay, that. I mean, we literally got used to it. We got used to the little disruptions, the little noises, the little voices. I remember the first time that Julie played when I met you at Pain House, and she played the sound of the little boy saying, I believe it was "Come Find Me."
Right.
Or the little girl, "Come Find Me."
Right.
And I immediately said, I know that voice. I know that voice. You know, and it's amazing how, and that was like 10 years ago. And so I was going back 40 years, just like that, 40 years back in time with the sound of a voice that I heard over and over and over again in the house. All these years later, can I tell you what these children were saying in particular? No, I can't, because they were trying to communicate, and they were sometimes talking to us, sometimes talking to each other. You know, very fragmented, disjointed, like spaghetti, you know, like what does that pertain to?
Right.
You know, you just don't know.
Right. One of the things I wanted to ask is I know that I was doing a lot of moving around. At one point, the last I was in that room, Tim was up there with a group. And I think he was talking to them about the odd configuration of the door casings at an angle. And he was talking about witch windows and things like that. Did any of you get to spend any time in that particular place at all during the night, or were you just constantly on the move? Because there's something about, maybe it's just the spooky vibe or whatever it is, but I found that people spend an awful lot of time in that little crawl space.
Yeah, we didn't spend time in that crawl space. We have in the past, but to be honest, I mean, we haven't gotten much. When we first started investigating there, we of course wanted to get to every nook and cranny to try communicating. And, you know, when Satori and I investigate, we always, you know, we definitely do our method a lot, but we also, you know, we're also investigators, and we like to, you know, investigate old school too, and just have communication and try talking and taking in the environment and listening. And I remember, you know, a couple of our first visits, we explored that room and didn't really get too much, to be honest with you. And that's not to say that, you know, other people obviously can, but it seems like, from the stories that I've heard of people that have recorded things in there and heard things, it's been outside of that room. You hear it from inside of the room, and you hear a commotion happening outside of the door, which kind of coincides to that video, which is interesting.
But we haven't really been there in a while, though, so we'd have to go back and really, you know, retry.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And you know, you guys know it just as well as I do. You know, we could go in there tomorrow and nothing would happen. You know, we could be there right now and nothing would happen. So, so, you know, it would make more sense to me that you'd be hearing the things on the other side of the door rather than inside of that room. You know, that would make the most sense to me. But I guess you never know. The place is magical in that way.
And Tim, you were up there for the first time, and it's a little bit different place because it's got the slanted ceilings, and you've got all those stories. And like you say, you're trying to check it at the door because you've heard the stories of what happened with Andrea and her sisters. And I tried to do it justice and tell you as much as I could when I was bringing people through. But being in that kind of environment, I don't know, just listening to yourself, you're in a monologue on that, maybe taking yourself back to what that must have been for, you know, these young girls up there and that kind of space, again, with the slanted ceilings and the floors and everything like that. And then all the rest of this stuff that's happening. That had to be pretty daunting for a bunch of young kids.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the few times where I've been on an investigation where I felt like I could put myself in the shoes of the people that had been living there. And maybe it's because, you know, I've gotten to know Andrea over the years and because she's done such a great job of telling her story. But I did feel like I could have pictured myself, you know, in that room back in that time. And what I found the most interesting about that is as I was doing that, I found I was bonding with the house. You know, as opposed to just being there as an outside observer and being there as somebody who is trying to be objective. I think that if I spent any more time in that house, things would become very, very subjective for me very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we, a little bit later on, we're going to play some clips of what happened after we signed off and everybody left the house. In the second half of the show, we're going to show you a little bit of things that, only we experienced and our viewers didn't. But as always is the case, Julie has cameras running. So we're able to go back and share a little bit of that with you. I know I was standing up there next to Tim, and it was just, you could kind of tell Tim standing in front of the door. And this door keeps opening. Every once in a while, you know, the cats would go through, oh, it's just a cat. And it's just kind of like, oh, it's just a cat again. And then suddenly there's one time that the door opened up and Tim says, that wasn't the cat that time. We're all looking for Jacqueline's feline. But and then suddenly it's like, okay, no cat. Letting you know we are going to probably in about a minute go to break. Bill wanted to go commercial free, but I figured we could all take a little bit of a break. And we're getting through these pretty good. Some of the longer clips are going to happen there. I'm going to fit one more in here. It's only a half a minute long. Julie, you're upstairs, and I got this on the FLIR camera when you were up there with Dana and Karen, where you got a response back to you trying to scare the hell out of everybody downstairs.
Unfortunately, that was
planning. You caught in your evil plan. So really quickly run through that, and I'll pop this on.
I just asked a question if somebody was with us, if they could go downstairs and bother Ken, or maybe tap on Jacqueline's shoulder, but be nice.
For that.
And that was it. And then I think Dana's got my FLIR camera, and I have another shot with me, my video camera shooting him with the FLIR. So it was caught on both, but it's definitely close to him, this voice.
Okay, so we'll play this real quick. This is caught on FLIR camera.
I think she closed the end of May. So this is your opportunity. If you know these faces, could you go down and just gently tap on their shoulder? Do not scare them. I don't think you could scare Ken if you tried. But is there anything you can do? I'll go down to say, did anything happen to you?
We don't.
Just trying different things.
Okay, obviously something you heard, but I don't.
Well, if you play that back too, Ken, just before she finished asking the question, as she was panning to the left to the door, you heard a voice under her voice also.
Yeah. Well, we can come back. We got 30 seconds, so
Sure.
We'll pay some bills in a minute. So one more time for you.
I think she closed the end of May. So this is your opportunity. If you know these faces, could you go down and just gently tap on their shoulder? Do not scare them. I don't think you could scare Ken if you tried. But is there anything you can do? I'll go down to say, did anything happen to you?
We don't.
Just trying different things.
It could be bleed over from another room investigating too.
Or it could be somebody shifting, like that whisper type of thing when you shift. But the interesting thing, I think it was a male, and the first one was also a male coming from that particular room. So maybe we'll get some background on that after we come back.
Yes. All right. We're going to take a quick break right now. As somebody in the chat said, pay some bills. When we come back, we are going to be playing some clips that occurred after we went off air. Some of the things that were captured, and you don't want to miss this. It's going to blow your mind, and it may open up your eyes with regards to the paranormal. Stay with us, guys. You are watching Dead Air Live on the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. We'll be back right after this break.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
As UFO reports come in from around the world, the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, is there. We continue to explore new cases and build our massive database. We share our information with the world in a number of ways. If you would like to be part of our investigative team, you are always welcome. What could be more exciting than exploring the UFO question firsthand? Join MUFON, find your friends.
Hi, I'm Austin Butler from Baz Luhrmann's new film, Elvis.
Tomorrow, all of America will be talking about Elvis Presley.
As a blood donor himself, Elvis shared the gift of life with patients in need and asked others to do the same. We're encouraging you to give blood this summer. Please visit redcrossblood.org/ElvisMovie today to learn more.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
The following program deals with the paranormal. Viewer discretion is advised. Tonight's episode focuses on the experiences, evidence, and messages collected during last Sunday's live broadcast from the Richardson House, also known as the farmhouse on Round Top Road, but most notoriously known as the Conjuring House. Our guests this evening will be recounting their experiences of the supernatural which they endured during last Sunday's group visit and ghost investigation there. The host, George Lopez, and the show's producer, Bill Forte, along with the viewers, have not seen or heard these testimonials and collection of evidence before this airing. Ken DaCosta, our other show host, has. Why? Because he was at the farm. Again. Today, our full-spectrum management staff and ownership wish to apologize for the statements read at the opening of last week's show regarding the absence and non-involvement of seasoned investigator and podcast star George Lopez at the Conjuring House again. I mean, come on. It's not like George Lopez would have to fly from Paris or something. I'm not even going to ask that someone outright purchases a plane ticket for George Lopez. If all you people watching would just click the damn subscribe button, we could finally monetize this channel and George could book the flight himself. Please enjoy the show. Definitely.
I'm torn between cautionary tale and cry for help.
It does have an emotional content to it, doesn't it?
It does.
It brings a tear to the eye. Very important for you guys. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Just click that little red subscribe button just below the screen. And the reminder bell is important too. We have a good friend returning next Sunday. Ghost Adventures, Ghost of Shepherdstown. Nick Groff will be joining us for the full 2 hours next Sunday night. Set your clock, set your calendar, and make sure you guys do not miss out on that great opportunity. Now we'll return back to our show here, but one person missing right now is Andrea Perrin. She might have stepped away for some more coffee. In the meantime, Miss Julie DeMay, Tim Weisberg, and Cody and Satori, the paranormal couple, are back with us also. And Ken, I turn it back over to you, sir.
Okay, so continuing on here, for those Orb fans during the show who were letting their feelings be known, and we appreciate that. Anything that you see, hey, you know, I go back to the strange light thing that was going on in that room. You can't be immediately dismissive, although sometimes we are. But I want to play a little bit of an odd sort of anomaly, if you will. And Julie, this is something you sent me about 3 days ago, and I said, okay, something in the air in front of the camera, and I was like, here we go. So I knew there had to be something more to it, because I know that you wouldn't be sending me dust particles.
I usually don't send you dust particles. I don't know if this is the clip I'm thinking of where something goes up and down in front of the camera.
Yes. What happened?
I have no clue. No clue what this is. And every time it did it like 3 times, and I'm like, no clue what it is.
Yeah, this is just a little bit odd because of the trajectory. So I wanted to throw this in here a little bit. you'll see something float up right in front of the camera lens and then quickly drop down. The only odd part about it is it repeats the same trajectory a few seconds later. So, for all you orb fans out there, this one's for you. Okay, so kind of a weird path where it seems to repeat itself, but the same thing just like drops down like a tic tac. You UFO fans will know what I'm talking about. So I don't know if anybody wants to weigh in on that, but we just thought it was something a little weird.
Well,
yeah.
That's also something that we saw frequently, movement like that, and would repeat the same trajectory. It would, and very frequently would go straight up and then straight back down and then straight back up again and then disappear up through the ceiling. I don't know what to make of it. I still, all these years later, don't know what to make of it, but it was a regular part. And a lot of times you catch these things peripherally. But one thing that we did notice in the house is that it would happen directly in front of our faces. Like, and it would, and several of us would see it at one time.
Right.
So, for whatever that's worth. I think it was just them, again, with whatever energy they had at their disposal at any given time, trying to make their presence known.
Yeah, I just thought it was a weird path. I've seen these things, and they're spiders, they're dust, there's airflow, there's convection between rooms, and all sorts of reasons for it. But not to spend too much time on it. We just thought it was an unusual movement. By the way, as we come back from break, I wanted to send my condolences to both Tim and Cody. You apparently missed out on being cast for the Elvis role. But listen, it's going to get better, guys.
Listen, we're working on a film now. Cody plays the young, sexy Elvis. I play the fat, sweaty old Elvis on the toilet.
Oh my God.
So you want to keep an eye out for that.
I
would pay double whatever they're charging to see that.
Like, I didn't hear anything about this. Is this where Cody's sneaking off to when I'm not looking? Is that what's happening?
We've been working on it in secret for a few years now. It started before the pandemic, so
the production costs are through the roof. Quick question, Ken, before you continue on. This one is for Cody and Satori. Came up earlier. I have a question. Cody, did you feel the spirits where you were outside investigating? Has there been any documents of the soldiers that may have died on this land?
Cody, before you answer that, can I show a clip?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. And then on the other side, you can answer that question.
So it sounded like there was some sort of noise happening right after a question would be asked. So a question would be asked and then bang, noise. Question would be asked, bang, noise. So I don't know if there was any correlation between the two or if it was just coincidence, but it was strange enough for me to recognize that it was happening. Here's the barn right here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so take us through it, Cody.
So I had gone outside by myself to take a walk down to the bridge area, just to take a walk up there because we've had plenty of experiences out there in the past. Tori doesn't like that I went by myself.
Yeah, I get a text. I'm like, hey, where are you, by the way? Everybody's in the main room. He goes, I'm in the woods by the bridge. And that's it.
Andrea at the time, just a little bit of background. Andrea at the time was doing the Estes method.
Yes.
Okay, Tim had set her up with that. Cody was outside. So, Tori, you're in the doorway going.
I'm trying to signal you. Cody's like, I'm by the bridge.
I'm trying to read lips here. It's like this is like one of those bad lip reading videos, and it's like Cody got bit by what? And then
I don't know why, but anyway, I was fine. Made it out
because you
alive.
go crossing the bridge in the dark.
I only walked back and forth on the bridge a couple of times, and I was very safe about it. Julie gave me like 20 flashlights, so I was good. And but anyway, so when I was out there, of course, the whole wooded area kind of takes a shift when it gets darker, and that might just be psychologically my mind playing with me, and which very well could be. But there was also noises that I was hearing out there at the same time, and I think when you investigate for a long period of time, and I know you guys would probably agree with me, you kind of get a feeling when something is around, for sure. You kind of feel like that energy shifts. Not saying that you're psychic or anything, but I think your senses definitely learn to tell you when something is around, and I could definitely sort of sense that when that clip we just played during that time, and it seemed like Andrew was getting responses, and I don't know if it was just coincidence or not, but it seemed like there was some sort of noise that would happen when Andrea would say a word, and George had Andrea's camera on the live stream while this was happening, and I was trying to signal that it was happening, but I definitely agree with leaving the Estes method up on the live stream rather than me hearing some noises in the woods. But it definitely seemed like it was correlating with whatever was happening in the house. I don't know if that was coincidence or not, and it definitely felt like something was a little off out there. So yeah, is it paranormal? I think it very well could be.
Now, did you have any background? There were comments, particularly from Tim Halstead, I think, had the question where people were talking about soldiers. There were soldiers in front of you or soldiers following you. And I think the second part of the question is, did you have any insight on the documentation of that type of thing when you were out there?
Well, once I got back in the house after Satori was done yelling at me, I was updated on all of the comments that people were sensing, soldiers and things like that. And I know that whole area absolutely was involved with the King Philip's War, and definitely the property would have been a place where soldiers would have been. While I was out there, I didn't get any feeling of soldiers or anything like that. That thought didn't come, or nothing made itself known that it was a soldier. But I love hearing the input of people that are sensitive, because they definitely give insight on what it could be, on things that I can't pick up.
But there's a lot of activity that happens in that woods, especially at night. I mean, even when we've communicated with the spirits in the house, they've actually said the woods at night are different. So it's like a different kind of energy that you're dealing with. Actually, at one point you were at the house the last time you were in the woods, and we caught an EVP that said something like "You'll live."
Yeah. I was actually in that same area, which is one of the reasons why I walked down there, and I had recorded a clip which sounds like a voice saying "You'll live." Not in a menacing way. I think just in a comforting way or a joking way, that you'll be fine and there's nothing to worry about. The other strange thing that I just remembered was this light that I saw kind of flash on and off in the woods a few times. Extremely bright, very close to the horizon line through the trees, and it was bright enough to get my attention. It definitely was not the house. I knew exactly where the house was. And I knew it was in a direction where there really is nothing that way, because we've seen it before. And the first time we seen it, we pulled up an aerial shot of the property and the surrounding area, just to see what was out there. Is there a house out there that, you know, somebody's turning on their back light or something like that, and it's shining through the woods, and there's really nothing in that direction that would cause that. So another strange, you know, event that kind of just coincided with everything else that was happening.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. You guys aren't in a drive-in movie or anything tonight, are you?
No.
No, the car
Not
just
interrupting anything? No.
feel it.
Some of our longer clips are coming up here, so I want to get through these, but the first one is not really anything that particularly happened that's profound, but I wanted to show you a clip of one of the things we did that night, an Estes method, and this was with Amanda Millette, and Tim was using something a little bit different that's coming into the forefront of spirit communication. That's a little bit different than the typical shack hack or the SB7 or SB11. So before I show it, Tim, tell us a little bit about exactly what it was you were using and why you think that it has some advantages.
So I use an app called EchoVox. It was created by a guy named Danny Roberge. And we use this because Scott Porter pulled the whole thing apart and looked into it to see if there were any pre-programmed words. Right. There's nothing in there except for phonetic sounds. So you shouldn't really have words coming out of it. And I prefer this method because first of all, just using the phonetics, I think makes it that much more profound when you do get a word, but also it eliminates that interference of getting radio frequencies that are having words in them that might falsely answer a question. So, you know, if you're in Boston and you're like, where were you born? And you hear Boston, where did you die? Boston. Well, that's going to happen because every station is IDing Boston, you know, every at least once an hour. So we found that using this kind of eliminates a lot of that. And, you know, when you get something coming through this that is a word, that's pretty impressive unto itself. But when you start getting like the first and last names of people that are in the room, that's even more impressive, which is why we've made the switch. That and the fact that I had an SB7 and I could never get it loud enough in the headphones so that I couldn't hear people outside, even with the noise canceling. Whereas EchoVox, I can make it super loud.
What I love about it is something called phenomes. I think humans can only make something like 35 sounds. And of course, we use lips, tongue, mouth to enunciate and make words. But basically, we're like Neanderthal. We're like, ooh. But forming of the mouth makes it so there are only 35 sounds or something like that we can make, I believe. So I understand exactly what you're saying when you're talking about phonetics rather than pre-programmed words. So let me, it's about a minute long. Let's just give you an example of what happened with Amanda and Tim.
Is someone ready to talk with us?
Help.
Who is it that we're talking to?
Hey.
Can you tell us your name, please?
What?
Can you identify yourself for us so we know who we're talking to?
Many.
How many? Well, I guess it's not this question to ask. But can you tell me how many of you there are? Can you tell us the name of one of you?
Who is the oldest?
Do you know the name of the person who is talking for you right now?
Sounded like something fell.
Again,
Chimes.
There should be no sounds.
Something I've never heard before. You know, it sounded like somebody fell. I'm not sure if she heard the sound or the reaction to falling, but I thought that was kind of interesting.
What's interesting about the EchoVox, as I mentioned, it should be only phonetic sounds, but somehow, and I never run it with the microphone on, but somehow, because I get feedback, but somehow there are sounds that have worked their way in it. So you get something that sounds like a door slamming or somebody falling. There's another sound that comes through that sounds like a gunshot. I know, Andrea, when you were under, you heard some of those noises come through, and they shouldn't be there. And when I go in there, I find no article in there that says that they are in there. It's just something that just randomly popped in, and I don't know how it happened or how to get it out.
Yeah, I know that Andrea had her session there, and which brings us to, because there's something we do want to touch on that we discussed a little bit. Now, those of you tuned in, we are really going to turn this right now to Cody and Satori. And this is something that, Julie had clipped and we enhanced a little bit, not filtered, but amplified so you could hear the tapping on this. And it's about 3 minutes long, but it's well worth the view. And we call this the Abigail session. So here it is for you.
Good.
And when you're here, I know it's a lot of people. When you're here, and just to let me know you understand me, can you stomp your feet 4 times to let me know you understand me? 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you so much. It's great to talk to you tonight. 1 for yes, 2 for no. You stomp your feet, okay? Do you understand me? You give me a yes knock? 1 for yes? Yeah, I heard a little one. All right. Thank you. That was very loud. All right. So are you somebody we have talked to in this house before? Yes. Ooh, crickets. All right. So can I ask you your name? I'm going to go through the alphabet. The first letter you knock, I'll restart. Second letter you knock when I get to it. I have a feeling you know this, but okay. All right. Let's show them how it's done, okay? A. Oh, I'll restart. A. All right. A, B. Okay. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Is this Abigail? Yes, Abigail. Can I just have your last name for confirmation? A. Arnold. Good job. Hi, Abigail. This is Abigail? Hi, Abigail. You're so sweet. Abigail, can I just make sure with the year you died? Just to let them know. I'm not trying to call you old or anything, I promise. All right. 1700s, 1800s, 1800s, 10s, 20s, 30s, 40, 50, 60, 70, ooh, 60. Okay, 60, 61, 62, 63, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1869. All right, thank you so much.
We're just going to confirm.
Can we get an exact date? Can I go through the months and then the days? All right, January, February, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, February 10th, 1869.
February 10th, 1869. Abigail Arnold.
Perfect. Thank you, Abigail. That's
Okay. So significance very quickly of Abigail Arnold, please.
Wait, so we're going into
Yes.
Abigail.
Who is she?
Okay, so Abigail Arnold is somebody that has recently come through to us. It's strange. We haven't ever talked to her before, except more recently. She kind of prides herself as being the lady of the house, at least in the spirit form as the previous owner. She's very sweet. She lives a really nice life. She actually talks to us a lot about her children. And
She does, yes.
some of the things she likes to do there.
Right, and when Satori and myself, made contact with somebody like that, I mean, that was, a previous resident of the house. We've done a few sessions with Jacqueline, just to try to see who's there, try to get some more information. And Abigail, like Satori said, started coming forward more recently, and she's told us about her life. You know, she like Satori said, she talks about her children, mainly a daughter that is named Olive, and she's talked about how she likes to can things,
She makes
preserve.
preserves and puts them in space. Actually, she had mentioned she had 2 pear trees outside on the side of the house that she was begging Jacqueline to replant if she finds the time to plant the pear trees for her, because that was one of her favorite things about the house. And she's very strict on, people being respectful in the home. She's very protective about the home and the other spirits and, everybody. So as soon as you walk in that door, she just says, please visit with respect, please be kind, because you don't want to see anything negative. She wants to keep it as positive as possible for you.
Yeah, and it still blows me away every time I see clips of that. It's one thing to be in the moment, and it's hard, at least for me, and I can't speak for Satori, but it's hard for me to process everything that's coming through. It's definitely a lot of information. It may seem a little slow when we're getting it, but in my mind, it's happening very quickly, and it's hard to process. So watching that, it still blows me away at how real this is. I know you mentioned at the beginning of the show, Ken, sometimes when things seem too good to be true, they're usually not. And this is one of those things that seems too good to be true, but it is. And, it's something that's, really happening. And to get a date like that and to find out, at least when we first made contact with her, who she really was, and what her position was in that house, it gives me chills till this very moment that we're talking directly to this person.
She's so kind as to tell us about how they used to have animals, not inside animals. She wanted to be specific and say outdoor animals, like farm animals. So she told us about her appearance. She's shorter than I am. I'd say about 5'4"-ish. She has brunette hair. She would just love to tell us all about her life and when she was in a physical form. But it seems that changing forms has not stopped her very much.
and that's amazing because history says one thing. I mean, we have her name, we have the day she passed away, or I'm sure we can find her birthday. But to get more information from her mouth, in a way, of things that she did when she was alive, things that she still is apparently doing till this day, which blows my mind in a whole different sense, that she's still enjoys making preserves and placing them in the basement. So she's living in a whole different realm for life out.
Yeah.
She, if I could just interject, I believe it was
please.
during that session that she wanted Jacqueline to know that she wanted her to plant trees on the property, and that it had to be 2 because they cross-pollinate. So in order to get fruit, you would have to have 2 of the trees that she requested that the new owner plant on the property. To me, I mean, I was just I had the warm fuzzies in a big way during that whole, when they all came through, they started blasting through. And Satori, you said how many words? You had a message for Andrea because they had already identified that I was in the house. And of course they knew I was coming, and it came through. I don't know if you kept this clip or included it, but they came through and said, we miss your family. And that just touched my heart so much. It was a beautiful moment. And, I can't, I think that the reason that they miss our family was because we were respectful of them. We did share space. There's a reason that I described that sacred place as a portal cleverly disguised as a farmhouse. And that's the reason, because we had to share it. As big a house as it was, there were times that it was really crowded in there, but it was also enlightening. It was illuminating to grow up in an environment like that. It literally altered the trajectory of the lives of every single member of my family. And that is true to this day. And for me to be able to communicate directly with my sister April, who passed in 2017, that's because of what you do and how you do it, and that she feels comfortable enough to allow you to facilitate that, as though you are a conduit for direct contact between us. There's nothing happening in this field that is more important than what the two of you are accomplishing with this method and this technique, in my opinion.
Well, let's show a little bit of that, because the next two clips, because I want to get into something else and bring George back. These are clips that a lot of these you haven't seen, but this was after the show where Cody Satori were compelled or felt compelled to go upstairs, and we were all present for it. Tim, Amanda, myself, my wife, you, Jacqueline, and so forth. So let's show a little bit about that communication with April. Now, I will tell you that I didn't go too deeply into this because, number one, it was a long session, and number two, there were personal messages coming to you, and I'm kind of always hesitant to take it to that point because they're directed at you. We felt that we were privileged enough to be part of them, but you can talk about it what you want. But this is what Andrea was referring to. This is upstairs after we ended the broadcast.
Matthew? Abigail?
No,
Who's this?
Yeah, who's this?
This is loud.
I know. Hi, who are you?
Are you? How many words? You seem like you know how this goes. Oh. I thought Jacqueline meowed. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Word I. I'm. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T. It. Next word is. Okay. Next word. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, O, Q, no, L, M, N, O, P, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, April.
It's April.
It's April.
Hi, darling.
She's so loud.
She's an Aries. That's my algorithm. Make us go ahead, stir it up. I know, that's my baby girl.
This April?
Yeah. What did I tell tonight? I knew she came with me.
How many words? Oh my goodness.
No, it's a novel. Figures.
All right. I'm taking
I'm
notes.
gonna go a little fast, okay?
Okay, so your sister.
Yeah.
April, so.
Wild.
Yeah, April came through, and for those of you, and that would be true of most everyone. This is not something that we shared much. George knows, Ken knows, Cody and Satori know now. But that during that session, April not only let me know that she was with my grandparents, my father's parents, Albert and Cora. She spelled out both of their names. She also let me know that she had Lucy. And 1 year ago today is the day that Lucy was killed, my great niece, 8 years old, in the floods in Waverly, Tennessee. So this has been a difficult day for my family. Something about anniversaries, but she not only let me know that she had Lucy with her, which we knew already, and that's a longer story that we'll save for another time, but she also admitted to doing something that was extraordinary that happened the first Christmas after she passed away. And that is that her little dog, Sammy, that she was attached to the hip with, didn't recover for a long time when she went away to go to the hospital and never came back. But she missed him as much as he missed her. And when Christmas came around, it was difficult for all of us to have our first Christmas without my baby sister. Christine had gone to the store and gotten him some special dog toys. And they were in a blue bag up on top of the bar in the kitchen. It was Christmas Eve. We had dinner. We all saw the bag. And I can't really explain this other than to say that this was supernatural in the extreme. Thank you, honey. Thank you. April wanted to give Sammy something for Christmas. And so she stole the bag of toys. And they were gone. And the next morning when we were doing our Christmas exchange, my mother, my father, my sister Christine, and myself, Chris went to grab the bag of dog toys and put them into a gift bag and give them to Sammy. And they were gone. And we searched the whole house for a long time, probably the better part of 45 minutes, to the point where Chris threw her arms up in the air and she says, I have no idea. I have no idea, where they could possibly have gone. They were here and now they're not here. And so we did our gift exchange Christmas morning, and then we cleaned out everything out from under the tree, and we took everything to our big family gathering. We came home in the evening after dispersing all of our gifts, and there was a bag under the tree. And Christine, when she was an actress in New York and lived in Manhattan for 4 or 5 years, she'd found this set of extraordinary art gift bags that she never gave away. She just used them for display, but she hadn't put them out that year because nobody felt particularly festive. However, one of those bags had been removed from the plastic case that she stores them in, and it was under the tree, and it had all the dog toys in the bag, and it also had the tissue paper that my father had thrown away in the trash can that was in the living room on top of the toys. And Christine, had a WTF moment. She said, and I said, oh my God, who did we forget to bring a gift to? And she said, no one. There was nothing under the tree when we left. And she went under, crawled under, pulled out the special gift bag and handed Sammy his toys and told them they were from his mommy, April. And we all knew it was her. But during our session at the farm last Sunday night, she confirmed that it was her, that she's the one that did that. And that was a great gift to me and my family.
It's
I got to say
wonderful
something,
to have that.
I got to say something real quick too. Is the funny part? I had met April on several occasions when Andrew and I were doing a lot of the traveling to the different lectures, and she is, for lack of a better term, high vibration. As soon as that knocking started, it just permeated that was without question her personality, her energy coming through for that.
Aries.
So, yeah, that was just a great interaction. That was awesome. And again, kudos to Cody and Satori for this incredible ability, this gift. But I know, Ken, there's some other stuff that you wanted to bring forward through that gift and things that we needed to talk about. So go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and actually I want to close the our review here with one more clip. about 3 minutes long, so we have a chance to gather our thoughts. And then when we come back, we want to close the show a little bit with approach and methods at this particular place and places of this type, and the effect and the impact of social media, and a little bit, and it's why we invited Jacqueline tonight. And obviously, she's a very busy woman, because we wanted to hear in her own words her approach to this particular location. But first, let's get this last one in. Now, you talked about planting trees. So this is a 3-minute clip of contact about the idea of planting pear trees.
How many words?
Don't be 5.
All right. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M.
No, please.
Please?
Yes.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q.
P.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M.
H. L.
L. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O.
Plan.
Plan?
Plant.
Plant?
Mm-hmm. Please plant. Please plan.
Oh, you have a request.
Oh, awesome.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N.
More?
More?
No.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y.
Mine. Please plant mine.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q. O.
P.
A, B, C, D, E, F.
E. Peaches? Peonies. Peaches? Peaches? No.
No, they wouldn't thrive up here.
Peas? Peonies?
Is it peonies?
Pears.
I don't know. Flower. Plums?
Peppers.
Pears.
Pears.
Okay, one at a time. One at a time. Give me a couple seconds, everybody.
Plums?
Okay, plums. Peaches. Pears.
A pear tree.
You want a pear tree?
Did you used to have a pear tree?
Where in the yard did you used to have a pear tree? In the backyard? Back this way?
In the front? Remember last time she said
On
that
the side
forest
yard.
was here.
Yeah.
She used to have a pear tree on the side yard right here.
Yes.
So, on the side of the house. So, if we can find a pear tree, I will just show up with one if we have. We'll figure it out.
That's great.
Okay, so before we dive into this a little bit, a couple of things. First of all, I had mentioned earlier in the show that it not only was Tim's first visit to the farmhouse, but it was also his first time being in the room and seeing Cody and Story, seeing this method. So I want to get his unvarnished view on this, because most of us have seen a great deal of this. So, and then I want to go to Julie because she took the video. So, Tim, I'm going to give the floor to you on this a little bit.
Sure. Well, I mean, naturally, I've known Cody and Satori for years, and I trust them, and I know their investigative style. But still, when you see something like this, it's very unbelievable when you're there in person. So you are looking for every little thing that might be a misinterpretation. I'm looking to see if legs are moving, if joints are popping, if there's anything that might cause that to be the case. When I was downstairs and they were doing it downstairs, I was far enough away because I let everybody else kind of have a front row seat that I couldn't really tell like necessarily where knocks were coming from. when we were in that room, and I am just off camera to the left, right behind Ken, who was sitting on the bed, I could hear very plainly where those knocks were coming from, and they were not coming from the entire time anywhere near Cody and Satori. They were happening right over my head. They were happening behind me. There's no space up there for anybody to be hiding and knocking and doing any of these things. So to me, hearing it come from all these different places of the room, there was something that was there that was making those noises that wasn't them.
Okay, and Julie?
I've probably filmed maybe 15 or 20 sessions with Cody and Satori, different locations. And for people out there who say this is crazy, this is all fake, I would not put out video that was lying about anything. There's a lot of crap out there in the paranormal world, and I've got 9 cameras. I've invested a hell of a lot of money in this, and the last thing I'm going to do ever is to fake any kind of evidence. Now, when you're in these sessions with Cody and Satori, you can hear somebody literally walk into the room. You're not going to get that watching these clips. But it is the most surreal thing I've ever seen. And one thing that really happened that night, Annie and Dawn were outside, Ken's wife. We were all upstairs. They didn't know where we were. The reason why they knew where we were, they came into the house, and Annie said you could feel the china cabinet in the seance room shake. It was so loud downstairs. Now, when you're in that room with us, it's a very subtle kind of noise.
Right.
And I can reassure you, you put me on a polygraph, I don't care. This is real. And again, I've seen it so many times, and I'm the one behind the camera. And if you don't believe it, I'm sorry.
And if I can address another comment in the chat about the dog not reacting, you don't see it in that video clip, but the dog actually did get up at one point and come into the closet door that was right in front of me and kind of stood there, poked its head into the closet, hair bristled up for a couple of seconds, and then the dog walked away and went back and sat down next to Jacqueline. So the dog was reacting. I just think that when it comes to some of the things that were happening where it was a positive experience, the dog didn't need to react because it didn't find this to be any kind of a threat. But there was something in that closet that made the dog very uncomfortable for sure. And it goes back to what Andrea was telling us before about that closet used to be the back part of the bedroom where they would see these shadows, including a shadow of some kind of animal that growled at her sisters. So to me, that just showed that the dog was reacting to something. It just didn't find the need to react to, say, April or to Abigail Arnold because it feels comfortable around those spirits.
Right. And that particular session, no, we didn't have 17 cameras because during the course of the night, everything was covered. So you saw the best angle for the viewing public. Okay, I want that understood. We've got more than that, but when you're putting on a show, sometimes you just give your best angle. So just to address that, right now that I don't feel like we need to, but talking about people with a lot of integrity here. So Annie, I know you want to say something on that.
I do. And, I understand skeptics. I have no use for cynics, but I understand skeptics. And this is from an outside objective view, really hard to wrap your mind around. It really is. I know the first time that I experienced it with them was on film, and I was blown away. And then a few weeks later, I was actually in their presence in my hotel suite with Jacqueline and, several other people who all had this experience for the first time live. Anybody that questions this, all I can say is that's fine. It is your job to question everything. And I think that skepticism, a healthy skepticism, actually propels the field forward. But I also have found during my decade plus that in this field as an author and a lecturer and a for all intents and purposes one who shares experiences that I had as a youngster. I often find people who deny this kind of interaction are afraid that we are telling the truth, and they're afraid that what we're sharing is going to fracture their belief systems. And so, honestly, George and I have talked about this probably ad nauseum, but George taught me the three most important words that I have now assimilated into my personal vernacular, and they are, I don't care. I am not here to prove anything to anyone. It is not my job to coerce, to convince, to do anything but inspire those with a mind open enough to be inspired and illuminated and awakened to the existence of the spirit realm. And all the rest of them can just beat feet and go off and do their own little thing in their own little lives. And I don't care. It has absolutely no impact on me whatsoever. It bears no it bears no relevance to my existence or my experiences in life. And so, I don't mean for it to be rude or uncaring, but it's just not, I'm not here for everyone, and it's not my job to convince anyone of anything. It is simply my job to tell my truth, my experiences, what qualifies as my knowledge, and that's it.
There is a point, and to understand this too, Ken and I have been talking privately in the chat. I know we got to move quick here because and Bill's been kind enough to give us a few extra minutes, but I wanted to bring it to the attention because there again, and I'm not going to give him any more attention after this, but those that are in the chat that are trying to stir up from an aspect of cynicism, not being skeptic, but just everything but what they're doing has to be either falsified or manipulated or has a purpose behind it. And when you have your own experiences, as I'm sure those of you in the chat have, there's nobody that can steal that or take that away from you. So when you're having people that are talking about their experiences, you have to basically empathize and understand that they're having the same kind of experience that you have had. Maybe not exactly the same, but they are having them. That being said, what has been occurring with Cody and Satori and their abilities, with the investigators that have been going out there, with the filmmakers such as Julie that have been doing what they're doing, high praise for all of you for making those efforts and taking that time, because it don't pay yet. We're just looking to try and get some answers out there, and I think it's moving forward with that. Speaking of answers, Ken, was there something else you wanted to address before we went?
Yeah, we talked briefly about what's going on at the house right now. I know we're a little up against it. I'll try to keep this short. Jacqueline is trying to bring a new era in. The ownership has been generational. It's passed on, and we find more about the previous owners. But what she is desperately trying to do is move away from some of the stories that have been, told and retold. You see them on social media. People immediately go to the negative because it attracts viewers, it attracts likes, it attracts subscribers. And she's really trying to paint this in a more realistic light and in a true documented light. Now, the parents' experiences are the parents' experiences. This is what happened to them. But she's very much trying to move away from the sensationalism that surrounds this place. There is enough going on there, and we've experienced it, witnessed it, seen it, heard it, that has nothing to do with witches and demons and all the rest of the things that people want to portray the house as. So a new day is kind of dawning here for people who want to do things called case studies. Remember those where you come in over a period of time and you test the place under different circumstances, male, female, good weather, bad weather, warm weather, cold weather. These are how case studies are done, but with a different approach to be conciliatory and respectful. I'm sorry. So just to make that clear as this house goes forward, and it's not mine to give. I don't have skin in this fight other than my respect for the property and the ownership. I certainly don't have 1.525 million reasons for being this invested in it, but people are going in there now with a different type of approach. And that's really all I can give you in terms of social media, the sensationalism, and so forth. And I just want to touch in with Tim really on this because he is in the business. He is in the entertainment field. He's done these type of things before. So I just want to get his really quick perspective on what this is all evolving into and what it's moving away from.
Well, I mean, as we know, there's been all kinds of places that have done it just for the money. And we as investigators can kind of see that a mile away. So we tend to avoid the places and avoid helping out the places that are like that. This is one of the places, and I talked about this in my lecture at the Ocean State Paracon. What Jacqueline's doing with this house is what we would like to see happen with somebody that owns a property that has activity, that they are focusing as much on the history as they are on the haunts, but as much as they're focusing on the haunts, they're focusing on what it means. So we're it's almost like we're taking for granted now that there is activity there and saying, let's try to see why that is. And let's try to bring in all different modalities and different approaches and different mindsets to see what gets kind of the best reaction out of it. And for anybody who, wants to begrudge somebody the right to pay for that, listen, nobody owes the paranormal world anything. You should have to pay to go in there and rent the house out for the night, just like anybody else. The work that you're doing is no different than the work that anybody else is doing. You're not special. So with that in mind, to have her open this place up and have people be able to go there and conduct investigations the way that they want to, there is a list of rules on the wall that you have to follow, including no sex or making out. I'm sorry if I broke that rule, both of those rules while I was there, but that's what I see as being the future of investigations, to have places like that has somebody that cares enough about it to be able to allow that kind of freedom to happen there, but to also have people that care enough about it that they want to go and support that notion and provide the money. Because as you said, it wasn't like somebody just gave her this house. She put an investment into it in order to make this happen for all of us. And for everybody that wants to look at that and say it's just a money grab, talk to her in 20 years from now when she still hasn't recouped what she put into it.
We got to cut away from KGRA, but we'll keep going with you guys here. Nick Croft next week, guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We'll see you next Sunday. You guys take care. I'm sorry, Tim, go ahead.
Okay, we can continue on. This is going to be on the archive replay anyway. So, anybody who has something to say, I mean, we want to hear it on this topic because we listened to enough crap before, so now we get to talk. So, Tim, if you want to finish your thought, go ahead and do it.
Yes, thank you.
That's about all the thoughts that I can have at one time.
and I have to walk my dinky dog, so I'm going to bow out gracefully and say good night and take Peanut out. But it was lovely being with all of you tonight. I love you all. You're, such a big part of my life, and I'm so grateful to have you all be a part of this extraordinary adventure that we're all on together. So with that, I bid you good night.
Okay, Annie.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah. I was getting a little warmed up in here, but the funny part about it, as soon as we addressed concerns, they took the opposite tact. Where they got attention, and then suddenly it's, well, we'd like to go up there, and we just like, well, don't be an asshole, and then expect a warm welcome from anybody. So it's fine, but
it's one of those things where again we have a split, like everything else going on in this country, but we have a split in the paranormal too. We have the ones that are shooting for and aiming for the amount of views or likes or whatever. And we are a program as well. And we look forward to you guys hitting the thumbs up and
course.
subscribing, but not at the sacrifice of authenticity. To go towards sensationalism each and every time and making things up and trying to demonize every contact with spirit because it's a steadfast guarantee that people are going to want to be drawn to it because it's scary. It's it's good for date night at the movies, on a Saturday night. But for the field itself, the breakthroughs with what Cody Satori are doing, and we have talked, Ken and I, and even Cody Satori at nauseum about the potential, the endless potential of what this could provide, and the dangers that they provide also. So if anything, this is just the tip of
Sorry,
the iceberg.
Was
I'm
somebody?
sorry.
Sorry, I thought was somebody demonizing it? I can't see anything.
Oh no, nothing in the chat. This is on a prior conversation, and I can't remember who it was that we were speaking to, but they had those concerns that what you were speaking to perhaps was not truthful. What you were speaking to was perhaps deceptive, and we could. I mean, we could go round and round with that conversation with regards to any type of device that we're using out there that we, in fact, are being manipulated in one way, shape, or form. So, we approach everything with caution. We look for the signs, the things that we've been told by good friends like Bishop James Long, what to be careful about sensing and doing. So, once again, this is still a very, very new field, regardless of the fact it's over a century old compared to the medical field. We're still leeches and bloodletting and amputations without any type of anesthesia. It's what we're doing, and we're still trying to move forward with what it is that this field has the potential for us to discover, and I'm looking forward to that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that people are being conditioned now, oftentimes by television because people get an unrealistic view of what it is that we do. And it has nothing to do with hoaxing or faking or anything like that. But obviously, when you've got a story to tell in 42 or 43 minutes, minus the commercials, I mean, you have to be moderately entertaining. And that's just the way it is. Unfortunately, people who are just paranormal enthusiasts who aren't interested in delving into this any deeper than just watching other people do it have a perception that this is the way it goes. One of the things, and Cody and Satori know it, and Julie knows it, how we have moved so far away from all the gizmos and gadgets we do, where we're moving more into camera work, 360-degree camera work, documentation, recordings. I don't care if something lights up. Sure, you can take environmental readings and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, when we go into a place like this, granted, we put it out live. We wanted to bring people in to see what we do. And one of the comments that night was, nothing's happening. It's like, well, welcome to paranormal investigation. If you want me to just fall down and make it sound like I just got pushed or, have my wife scratch my back or whatever the case may be, and, give you your daily dose of entertainment, we're more than happy to do that. But we're trying to present a realistic view of this. And I know Tim does too. When Tim does a lot of events and tours and you want to call them ghost hunts, whatever you want to call them. But they're there to tell a good story, to be entertaining. Oh, what happened? Car flipped over. to be entertaining, give them the history and the dates, which are boring, but do so in a way that you engage people.
Yeah. I mean, we always say when you come to one of our events, we can't promise you a ghost. We can only promise you a good time. And there's been plenty of times when we've, taken ticket money from people to come to these things, and they come and the place isn't really all that active. But in the end, nobody cares because they still got to be there and experience what it's like to be there. And they got to make a donation to this place to keep it going. So it's not really, and I've worked on the TV shows too. And I can tell you that the shows that I've worked on,
a bunch of them.
No, yeah, three different ones behind the scenes. And not only did they not fake anything, as far as I know, but they actually, one time, one of the programs reached out to me and asked me to review the recordings that they did the night before because they didn't have time before they had to get to the next location to do their own evidence review. So they sent me all of the audio, and I went through it all. And all I came back with after like 8 hours of listening was this one clip that I sent to them, and I said, there's might be something here. It could be production, but I'm not sure. And it was a voice that was very clear and loud and like said something very audible into the recorder. I don't remember what it said. And I sent it to them, and they could have easily put that on television and said, here's a clip that we got while we were investigating. But instead they wrote back to me and they said, we checked against the production cameras. It was somebody on the production team. We're throwing it out. So it could have been so easy to just call that paranormal evidence and put it out there so they had something from that episode. And instead they just said, you know what? No, we have to, be true and be honest to this. And the fact that people are skeptical about it and would think that people would put their reputation on the line that we've built up over decades just to be on television, let me tell you, it doesn't pay that well, and you don't really get that much notoriety out of it. So it's a very small audience. And the other thing too is, nobody looks at reality television shows from other walks of life and feels like those reality television shows owe it to those people. Like nobody looks at the tattoo competition shows and says, well, that's not really what tattooing is like. So that's just giving the tattoo world a bad name. Or no, but when you look at some of these, behind the scenes sports shows, well, that's not really what it's like. So they're giving it a bad name. No, it's just because people who got involved in this because they saw it on a TV show, but then don't get on a television show, have to find a way to go and shit on what it was that they first were interested in the first place.
Well, and that's the thing. You didn't make a big announcement that, hey, we had a piece of evidence, but we didn't put it on because it was somebody in production. Just morally, it was the right thing to do. After 50 years of doing this, right, whenever that time comes that it stops for me, what is it I'm going to take with me? Untold riches? I'm hoping to take with me the idea that, Ken was a straight up guy. Julie's a straight up woman. Cody and Satori, they're straight up people. What else are we going to take with us at this point? So the idea that we're trying to present a true picture of what's happening, and maybe we're funny, we crack a joke, we try to engage people when we go to these things. But at the end of the day, we're not there to thrill and chill or overreact or embellish things. We are showing you the process that we are going to. When we brought that young lady on that was with you and she saw something, it's just, okay, tell everybody what you saw. Now, we didn't get it on camera, but your experience is still your experience. And at the end of the day, it's just as valid in some ways as 17 different camera angles that are showing this alleged thing that happened.
I want to address another comment. Not that I want to sit here and address all the comments that are coming in.
No, we can't do it,
But there is a comment about, somebody getting paid to come on and be an expert for things. Well, that's what happens when you're good at what you do and you can convey it very well to other people. There's money to be spent on these productions, and it's not like they have to have this person on that charges whatever they charge for a day. I don't believe that. But it's not like they have to pay it. What it is that they have the budget to make this show, and this person wants to be compensated for their time. Ken, you and I have been doing this for a long time. We have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience and a lot of stories to share. We go out to libraries and present that information to people.
And I think on behalf of both of us, we apologize for that.
But our time is worth something. And so when people want to give you an honorarium, there's no shame in taking it. because you have spent the time and the energy to put all of this stuff together and to learn this stuff. I don't just go out on the weekends with a camera and a recorder and call myself a paranormal investigator. I spend time looking into the history, doing the research, putting together the presentations, and that's worth something to me.
All the unsexy stuff. So, hey, Julie, Cody, Satori, I want to let's circle back around here in the time we got left. Everybody needs to leave. I understand it, but let's circle back around to what Jacqueline is trying to do here right now and how she's trying to move away from the sensationalism and all the rest of this stuff and the stories that are made up that there was a witch convicted and she was hung, and it was like all the rest of this stuff that draws eyeballs to whatever it is that you're doing. But she's trying to bring this around to, yeah, it's great that you can record this stuff and document it, but she's a more spiritually minded person. I mean, she wants to have paint nights there, for God's sakes, and do something more than just titillate and have people come in. And, you saw what happened on some of the videos, and I'm not going to run them down or name names or whatever, but people doing some crazy things in there, locking themselves inside the well, and all of these things that people will do when they're not under supervision. And she's just trying to move away from it. So in the time we've been there, I mean, Julie, Cody, Satori, what are you seeing from this place? And what's the advantages of coming from it from that direction? Whoever wants to start.
I'll take it from this angle, and I'll let Satori answer as well. I think, individuals who, maybe have investigated in the past and are going to, come again under new ownership. I mean, we're still great friends with Jen and Corey. They did a wonderful job running the house.
I love Jen and Corey, and if they're watching, we love you.
And I think with every owner, everybody, does their own thing, and there's a shift. And Jacqueline's definitely doing her own thing. And I think spiritually, you're also going to notice a shift in the type of communication you get, because if Jacqueline is she's really a stickler when it comes to how you present yourself while you're at the home. And with the communication that Satori and myself have had with the spirits that we have talked to there, they're not fond of that type of provocation and disrespect that the living gives them.
But so much of that, Cody, is nothing at the end of the day but performance art.
Right, exactly.
That's what it is.
Absolutely. And I think because that's not going to be happening as much now, hopefully not at all, the spirits, I think, are going to start acting a bit differently and maybe communicating a bit more, because people are paying attention to them in a much different way than they have been in the past.
And we were told that.
Yes. Jacqueline is so incredibly kind. She's so nice. She has such a warm energy about her, and I think the spirits in the house know that, and they're very happy to have somebody like that. I mean, I've never had to bring messages to somebody before about requests, because they actually believe that Jacqueline's going to do it, because Jacqueline's so dead set. They mentioned the pear trees, and Jacqueline's like, all right, I'll go look at pear trees. She didn't even question it for a second. She wants to make them happy and comfortable. And I just love that. I love that a lot. And I think, just put it this way, Jacqueline wants to make the house a happier place, and so she's being more strict about it. And to be honest, all the stupid things that people have done in the house prior, the spirits have seen it all, and they actually still talk about it to this day. So just hold on.
They did, and yeah, we were party for that. But the thing is, Jacqueline doesn't know what she doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And freely admits that. And this is why when we left, she's like, is Tim coming back? Is Amanda coming back? It's like, no, we never want them here again. But they've taken to us in a way that there's a trust there. It's like, and she's like, teach me. And this is why we invite her to the Ocean State. And this is why we do these things, because we're trying to indoctrinate her in a way into the community, but do it in a way that's comfortable, because she's like, all of these people are such good people. And I said, yeah, whether it's Chris Rondina or Joe Chin and all these people, it's like somehow we found each other. You know, we're not trying to BS each other. We have these conversations, you know.
And you know, shitheads, you're just not going to bring the shitheads over there.
Well, that's what it is. It's like, you know, it's just not going to happen. That's the last thing I'm going to do is compromise any kind of a relationship that we have either with the owner or the house itself or whoever might be there. So I remember saying that night, you remember I asked, can you see us all in this room? And Abigail says, yes. And I said, I promise you that every face in this room will always come here with nothing but respect and the best intentions. And you spelled out, thank you. And it's great to have that language and that conversation. Julie, I'm going to give you the last word on this, and we'll get out of here in about a minute or so. Hey, everybody who's stuck with us for this, I appreciate it. This is like some of the good stuff happens when the show's done, you know?
Now, I think me doing videos since 2009 and coming to the house with the new owner, it's like a breath of fresh air. She loves history. She wants to get all the information she can. As a new owner, she's actually saying, I want input. I want to listen to people. And some owners might not even do that. But with some of the sessions we've already had, the spirit, Abigail said she knows us all, which is interesting. She brought up specific examples of people doing bad things at the house so they remember. And going forward,
BuzzFeed.
And going forward, it's just amazing. I think she said she's feeling a lot of activity. And I think it's because it's like getting to know your neighbor and getting to like your neighbor. And you and your neighbor becoming good friends. And I think that's what's happening. She says she's seeing it on all the tours and she's excited. And this is the way you should go. And the history, we're trying to do some history for her. It's a really old house. It's got a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. So it's all good. And, you know, I'm just thrilled to be part of it. Thrilled that we're all able to support this event and looking forward to doing future events with her to support the house. It's just awesome.
The next step we're going to take, and everybody's invited to participate in this, is, and I talked to Chris Blanchett and Tim. I think you know Chris from our group, our researcher. His degree is in preservation archaeology. He's the guy who went to Romania and did a dig at Castle Tepes. What we've decided to do is do a geological and archaeological survey of the property. Everything from EMF to the power lines to the composition of the geology. My daughter-in-law, who's a whiz-bang on this, is going to look at rock formations, quartz formations, underground water. We're going to have 3 different metal detectors going. We are going to graph the property and see if in somehow geology plays a role in this. And Jacqueline has given us a big thumbs up on that. So when I square that away with her, I'm going to be in contact with anybody, even if it's just charting stuff or running a tri-field from the power line south and then see, you know, take readings, see how it dissipates. And so that's the next thing I want to do there beyond, you know, going and, you know, as much as we all love her, talking to Abigail, but try to find out if this is a battery of some type. And if there is something earthly and terrestrial that actually plays into this thing. So that's going to be something that Chris and I are talking about. Jacqueline's on board with it, and we'll just go and get some hot dogs and hamburgers and put them on a grill and spend an entire day there just taking readings and going into the woods and metal detecting and, you know, looking for structures and things like that. So that sounds like a lot of fun, I think, anyway.
All that, and I can't get a damn plane ticket. Unbelievable.
You can get a plane ticket.
Nobody's stopping you.
Let's go ahead and thank our very special guests tonight, of course, Andrea Perrin, We have Tim Weisberg, Julie DeMay, and Cody and Satori, who, guys, again, if you subscribe, they have a show every other Thursday right here on Dead Air Full Spectrum. Make sure you guys check it out and all of the wonderful programming that we have upcoming. Don't forget also next Sunday, our good friend Nick Croft will be joining us, paranormal investigator, and I want to thank
Fitness
you guys.
expert.
Yeah, fitness expert amongst many other things, and he's got some great upcoming things happening. So don't forget to, again, hit that subscribe button, the thumbs up, and the reminder bell. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.